Hello, welcome everyone. We're excited to have you join us for today's live webcast on how to use LinkedIn for brand marketing. Kicking off today's discussion will be Andrew Kaplan, Senior Product Marketing Manager at LinkedIn. He'll be followed by Michael Voss and Lisa McKinney from International Coach Federation, where they will dive into their own examples of how they are using LinkedIn to leverage their brand. First, a couple housekeeping items. We invite you to ask the speakers any questions you might have using the Q&A box in WebEx, and we'll take time to answer those questions during the Q&A portion following our speaker presentations. We also invite you to join the conversation using the hashtag you see on the screen here. And finally, we will be sending a recording of the webinar along with the slides to you via email following the event. And now, without further ado, I will toss things to you, Andrew.
Thank you very much, Cass. Hello, everybody. My name is Andrew Kaplan. I'm a senior product marketer at LinkedIn. And give me a second while I try to advance the slide here. Really excited to talk to you all today about brand marketing, the buyer's journey, and how LinkedIn fits into the picture, how you can leverage LinkedIn as brand marketers to meet your objectives and your goals. So let's start just by taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture of what it's like today to be a brand marketer. One of the biggest things we're seeing, especially in the world of B2B, but also B2C, is that the buyer's journey is increasingly complex and unpredictable. People who influence purchase decisions, people who are buying your products and services, are taking a more circuitous path to get to that decision. They're researching their purchase decisions thoroughly using a variety of content channels. Apologies, I think we have a WebEx complication. Let me log back on. There we go. So as I was saying, the buyer's journey is more unpredictable than ever. Buyers are researching their purchase process online and offline through a variety of channels. There are more people than ever who impact a purchase decision. And this means that you have to, as marketers, think about where can I build a relationship with my target audience throughout that decision process so I'm impacting that decision at key points throughout the journey. And more specifically, it's a challenging world. We find that customers are up to 90% of their way through their purchase process before they even make contact with a vendor to begin with. So they're looking for information and content online from their peers through mobile and desktop that can help them make a wiser decision. In addition, they're consuming up to 10 pieces of content before ever making contact with a vendor. So during that process, they're doing more of their own research. And the question is, where is your brand, where does your company fit into this process? And the approach that brand marketers are taking today is using a variety of formats, whether it's display, social media, content, and email, to impact that decision, to make contact with their customers and buyers at different points. But we feel like there's got to be a way to do better. So today, for example, there are a lot of missed opportunities that brand marketers are encountering where they could make better contact with their audience. For example, there are up to 17 people that now influence technology purchase decisions inside an organization outside of the C-suite. 44% of B2B buyers have already researched a company on a smartphone or tablet before they make their purchase decision. If you just look at the audiences that you're driving to your website, 95% of traffic to your landing pages is anonymous. You don't know who those people are. They're not filling out a form. They're not filling out a form. They're not converting into leads. In addition to that, 80% of your audience for whom you do have email addresses, they aren't opening your emails. So this all translates into a 1% conversion rate. So imagine if the funnel actually worked like it did, where you could reach the right audience, you can engage the right people in the very beginning, make sure that you were driving the right audiences to your landing pages, that you were engaging the right people with content early on in the decision process, that you were delivering relevant and helpful content throughout that purchase decision process at key stages in the funnel, resulting in better lead conversions, in more targeted conversions and customer acquisitions. For brand marketers, that means how can you increase awareness? How can you build your brand and shape perception in the earliest stages when your audience might not even be aware of which product or service they want, when they're still trying to research their brands? And all of that impacts the bottom of the funnel, because if you can reach the right audience from the beginning, build your brand using tools, you can actually impact the bottom of the funnel. You can drive more conversions, pipeline, and revenue, and convert customers at a higher rate than you could with traditional tools. And so what we're going to explore today is how can LinkedIn help you as brand marketers actually do better customer engagement throughout the purchase process at all stages of the funnel. So you can reach the right audience from the very beginning with display products or sponsored updates. And then all of those efforts you make as brand marketers can impact the bottom of the funnel, so you're able to show measurable revenue and ROI. So let's look into how can we rethink brand marketing? How can LinkedIn provide a platform and tools that reshape the way brand marketers like you can make an impact on the business? And I think it comes down to a few things. So number one is LinkedIn can help you reach the right professionals in the right context. We've actually done some research with TNS Media Intelligence that shows that people on LinkedIn, 364 million professionals around the world, they use our platform in a very aspirational mindset. So they're coming to LinkedIn to consume content that's relevant to their industries and their professions. They're thinking about how can I use LinkedIn to become a more successful brand marketer, for example, a more successful professional in whatever industry they're in. And that mindset actually makes them much more favorable and receptive to brand updates and brand messages, up to 26% more receptive to brand messages than they would be on more consumer-facing social networks. The second thing we'll explore is how can you, using some of these tools that LinkedIn provides, engage prospects wherever they are online, on LinkedIn.com, on the LinkedIn mobile app, or even off LinkedIn, so you can follow your key audience wherever they go across the web. The third we'll dive into is targeting. Your success is going to be determined by, can you reach the audience that you want to reach using reliable data? And LinkedIn's data is essentially the largest first-party data repository of professional profile information in the world. It lets you reach the exact audience you want to reach with relevant content, and to do so in an accurate way. And then finally, you want to make sure that you can reach prospects in the channels that they're using the most to research their purchase decisions, to consume content, and that increasingly means mobile. So we'll explore that as well. Looking at context, again, you want to engage an audience, especially if you're a B2B marketer or if you're a high-value B2C marketer. You want people who are in an aspirational mindset. You want to reach an audience when they're more receptive to brand messages. And that's one thing that LinkedIn is very good for, because it is a platform where our members are actively seeking out opportunities to connect with brands that are providing useful and interesting information. And that begins with LinkedIn Display. So LinkedIn allows you to reach your professional audience in the premium context of the LinkedIn desktop experience with a variety of IAB standard advertising formats, as well as unique, what we would call native formats that conform to the LinkedIn experience. So if you look at this view right in front of you, you can see that you can actually run display ads on LinkedIn that pull in a member's profile picture, that pair it with your company logo or another image that you upload, and then offer a really compelling call to action and a customizable button that can encourage that member to, say, follow your company page on LinkedIn so you build your audience of followers, to click through to your landing page to download a piece of content. So you can, using LinkedIn on-site display, run a lot of the traditional display formats that you're used to running on publisher sites, but also take advantage of these native formats that are going to engage your audience in an experience that mirrors the LinkedIn desktop environment. Another thing you can take advantage of is text ads. So if any of you are using, or if you have teammates who are using pay-per-click advertising out there, LinkedIn text ads helps you do something very similar, where you can scale your messaging to the right audience and drive performance using text-based ads with customizable headline, call to action, description, and images. You can bid on a CPC or CPM basis, test different creatives, so you have a very flexible campaign structure to optimize on the fly, and you can reach your audience by targeting them using LinkedIn's accurate, up-to-date profile data. So across all of our products in LinkedIn, you can target your audience based on things like the industry they work in, the seniority they have within their company, their job function or their occupation, in many cases the skills, where they are, the size of their company, or even company name. If you're trying to do account-based targeting, several of LinkedIn's products support company name-based targeting as well. And the great thing about text ads is not only is it flexible and scalable, it's also self-serve. So this is one of our excellent self-service products. So a good example of a company leveraging some of our on-site display tools is HP. HP wanted to, actually they're the first company on LinkedIn to reach 1 million followers. They're tremendous brand power on LinkedIn. They ran a campaign where they used LinkedIn on-site display advertising, as you can see, to create an ad unit that pulled in members' profile picture, paired it with the HP logo, and encouraged them to follow the HP company page. And we were actually able to give them a one-click follow that got 300,000 new followers for them on LinkedIn in just a couple of months. It's a 112% increase in the number of CXO followers that they were engaging on their page. Really strong engagement rate from audiences they targeted in the C-suite. They were able to actually target their campaign to C-suite executives using LinkedIn's data. And they also found a very high, they did some studies following this campaign and found that a measurable increase in brand awareness and brand preference from people who saw this campaign and then followed the company. And again, this is using LinkedIn on-site display products. So just a way for them to figure out who's the right audience I want to reach at the top of the funnel, how can I build my brand with that audience, and just try to amass a following from the very beginning. The next thing that LinkedIn allows you to do really well is engage prospects anywhere they go online. So I just walked through some of LinkedIn's display products that you can use for LinkedIn.com if you're trying to run ads on the LinkedIn desktop experience. But your audience is probably spending a lot of their time, of course, all across the web on any number of premium publisher sites. How can you keep your brand top of mind with your target audience as that audience travels to places other than LinkedIn? And that's what LinkedIn Network Display helps you do really well. This is basically an audience extension tool. It allows you to run targeted display ads on LinkedIn.com or SlideShare, which is another property that LinkedIn owns, the world's largest community for professional presentation sharing. But you can also run your LinkedIn display ads on thousands of publishers across the web, premium publishers that we help you access through leading exchanges. And this is, again, a great way to scale your reach to your target audience beyond the LinkedIn website. But you can still target that audience using LinkedIn's up-to-date professional profile data, like seniority, job function, company size. A great example of that is MyCase. So MyCase makes case management software for the legal profession, and they wanted to increase their brand awareness among people specifically with legal job functions, people in the legal industry. So they ran a LinkedIn Network Display campaign where they ran ads on LinkedIn.com as well as off, and they were able to show, as you can see by this chart, a very significant increase over time in the number of new visitors that they were getting to their landing pages from the legal profession, from people in the legal industry. They were actually able to reach the right audience to begin with, so from the moment they get their brand in front of professionals, they can ensure that they're reaching the right audience. And they were able to run these ads in a variety of publishers all across the web, including LinkedIn.com. So then, let's look at the next step. So let's say you're using display advertising like LinkedIn On-Site or LinkedIn Network Display to reach the right audience, to build your brand awareness with that audience. What do you do next? How do you move down the funnel and start to engage that audience with relevant content at the right time? So as a brand marketer, you can demonstrate how your initial engagement, your branding efforts, impact the bottom line. And the way you do that on LinkedIn is through what is really a very powerful retargeting platform called Lead Accelerator. So with Lead Accelerator, you can take audiences that have visited any portion of your website. We have a pixel that you can place, a pixel that's unique to LinkedIn. You can place it on any set of landing pages you want, and then you can start to retarget your website audiences using ads and content and messaging on LinkedIn or off LinkedIn. This basically rolls up a bunch of different products into one retargeting and nurturing platform. Display advertising, sponsored content, sponsored email, which we'll get to in a couple minutes. And it lets you target messages to the right audience at the right time. For example, you could set up a sequence of ads and messages to retarget people who have visited from your homepage but never made it beyond your homepage. Conversely, you could set up a campaign where you nurture audiences that might have visited some of your product pages or other sets of landing pages. So you can send different messages to these audiences in sequence depending on what part of your website they've already engaged with. And you can nurture those audiences if you're a B2B marketer into leads, or if you're a B2C marketer and you simply want to try to drive those audiences down the funnel into different sections of your website. You could set up actions and try to qualify your audiences and drive them to these different landing pages using sequence messaging. So Lead Accelerator, it's one of our newest products. It's a powerful retargeting platform and a great way to engage audiences in the middle or the lower part of the marketing funnel. And the great thing about these products, especially Network Display or Lead Accelerator, is that we offer you analytics to measure results. So working with your LinkedIn representative, we can get you access to a pixel that you place on your landing pages, and you can start to, this is ever before you launch a paid campaign with LinkedIn, you can start to measure the audiences visiting your landing pages. You can figure out the demographics of those audiences in terms of the information that's relevant to their LinkedIn profiles, like how senior are they in their organizations, what industries and job functions are they representing, what locations are they representing, what company size do they have. And then as you start running network display campaigns or lead accelerator streams, you can see the impact. You can measure, am I driving a certain number of new visitors to my website through my LinkedIn campaigns? You can see, am I driving those audiences down the funnel to more interior sections of my landing pages, getting them to engage and download content, for example, to convert into leads. And we provide you all the tools to make sure that you're measuring your campaign in the strongest possible way. So let's look at a company that's actually doing this really well right now, which is OpenDNS. So OpenDNS is an IT security service provider, and they wanted to reach out to IT decision makers on LinkedIn. And using LinkedIn's data, we actually were able to ensure that they were sending ads and messages to an audience of people who were senior in their companies and who held IT positions. And the products that used to do this were, number one, LinkedIn Network Display. So that let them place display ads in front of their target audience on LinkedIn and off LinkedIn. Following that, they took those audiences that they drove to their website through Network Display and nurtured them into known contacts and engaged audiences through Lead Accelerator. They were able to use traditional brand marketing products and methods and paired those with our retargeting product to engage their audiences more intently with their brand and to drive a measurable impact to their business. So they got, for example, 9,400 new website visits from their target audience of IT professionals, 140% increase in page views per visitor from their LinkedIn campaign. So very good engagement from their network display efforts. And then using Lead Accelerator, they generated 280, nearly 300 new qualified leads. So as a brand marketer, these tools can help you not only reach the right audience to begin with, but then actually engage those audiences and nurture them into warm contacts and show measurable impact to the bottom line. And then the final piece of the puzzle, I think, is reaching prospects where they're most engaged, and today that means mobile. About 50% of LinkedIn's traffic today comes from mobile devices, and we have some excellent solutions that perform really well on mobile. So let's dive into that. How do you engage your audiences with content on mobile devices? I think it starts with sponsored updates. Sponsored updates are a native advertising solution that let you publish relevant content to the LinkedIn newsfeed. And that's actually where we get some of the highest engagement of anywhere on LinkedIn. In fact, we find that the 364 million members on LinkedIn tend to engage with content, such as content in the newsfeed, much more than they would engage with other forms of information on LinkedIn related to, say, job postings. Increasingly, we're finding that members on LinkedIn turn to our platform because they want to find news, industry breaking updates, for example, thought leadership content that's relevant to what they do in their jobs and their careers. And sponsored updates lets you publish blog posts, rich media like videos or SlideShare decks, links to your website, and actually hit members in the feed as they scroll through that feed on desktop or mobile, drive traffic back to your sites. It's a product that we provide, for which we provide managed service or self-service, so it's very flexible. And we find that sponsored updates tends to get often 3 to 5 times the engagement of a typical display ad. So if you are a content marketer and you're looking for a place to publish your content in a place where LinkedIn members will see it, sponsored updates are a great way to do that and a great way to reach that audience across mobile devices. And we give you powerful tools to measure the results. We actually just released a huge update to our Campaign Manager platform that provides a unified view of all of your sponsored updates or text ad accounts. It helps you track how you're engaging your audiences with content, test different variations of copy, creative, or targeting at scale, give you visibility into the social engagement in the earned media you're getting with your sponsored update posts, and reports that are highly visual and that update in real time. So we give you, again, analytics and tools to manage your campaigns at scale and to get insight into how you're doing so you can test and refine your methods. And I mentioned mobile. You know, we're going to dive into another mobile product, but one thing I forgot to mention is that 75% of engagement with a sponsored updates campaign typically comes from a mobile device. So if you're looking for a mobile-first strategy, sponsored updates is a great way to go. Also, sponsored email is another great solution for mobile. So what is sponsored email? If you have a LinkedIn account, you've probably gotten a message from other members. You have an inbox on LinkedIn.com. Sponsored email is a native advertising solution for the LinkedIn inbox. It lets you deliver personalized messages to members through the inbox. And this is the great part about it. Not only does it show up on mobile device or desktop, it also gets 100% deliverability. If you're an email marketer, you know that, like we mentioned earlier, if you're doing pretty well, on average, 20% of your email audience is actually opening your messages. With sponsored email, we help you get around that open rate problem because we only deliver messages to the inbox when members are actually logged in real time to the LinkedIn platform. So you pick your target audience, and then as members within that target audience log on to the website, to LinkedIn.com, that's when we'll deliver the message to their inbox, so they're most likely to see it. You can stylize your call to action, add a call to action button to drive traffic off of LinkedIn back to your brand landing pages. We're finding that open rates for sponsored emails, especially because they have deliverability, 100% deliverability and mobile optimization, we're getting open rates that are like 30 to 40% on average. So incredibly strong performance from this product, which we've recently updated.
I meant to grab one this morning and forgot.
So let's look at a case study of a company that is actually engaging users through sponsored updates and sponsored email. A company called Accelerator. This is a company that makes virtual data rooms for professionals in mergers and acquisitions. So they have a very specific target audience. They're trying to engage people who have an M&A background. That would be an audience that's pretty difficult to reach in most social or online platforms. What they were able to do at LinkedIn is define that target audience. They were able to use sponsored email and sponsored updates to publish content to the newsfeed, as well as send messages to LinkedIn members' inboxes within that target audience. What they actually did was they drove traffic back to like an interactive online game that they had set up. It's great branding play for them, a really interesting way to reach out to this audience that's often very difficult to make contact with. And the results were fantastic. They got a 54% open rate on their sponsored emails, almost a 1% engagement rate on their sponsored updates content in the newsfeed, very strong. And they reached a unique audience of 600,000 people with mergers and acquisitions, job functions, and backgrounds. They were able to actually find that target audience and then reach them with content, drive traffic back to their landing page where they were hosting this mobile game. And now, I've done a lot of talking, so thank you all for your attention. I would like to bring in International Coach Federation, Michael Voss and Lisa McKitty, representing this really awesome company that provides support services and other kinds of resources to professional coaches around the world. Would love for them to talk a little bit about actually how they've been using LinkedIn's products, what kind of results they're seeing. So I'll turn it over to Lisa and Michael.
Hello. Thank you, Andrew. So yeah, we want to talk.
Oh my goodness. Oh, okay.
So I think we're having a
Hi, everyone. Make sure you're muted. Thank you.
So, yes, this is Michael and Lisa with the International Coach Federation. We are on the staff, of the global staff of ICF, which is a member organization which serves to promote and advance and support the profession of coaching. One designation that probably should be made is that it's not sports coaching, but it's actually career coaching, executive coaching, business coaching, life coaches, and that sort of thing. So like any membership organization, we're constantly looking for ways to increase our membership. And so last year, one of the methods that we chose to do so was to work with LinkedIn on a campaign. One of the reasons that we decided to work with LinkedIn in reaching out to potential new members is that we're an organization that does a lot of research every year on the profession, on coaches, on clients, et cetera. And because we're so research focused, we actually kind of came to the realization that about 97% of our members were actually on LinkedIn. And so sort of thinking that through, we decided that, well, there's probably a good chance that a lot of coaches out there who aren't members are probably on LinkedIn as well. So we took that a step further and we did some research and kind of determined the top 30 or so groups that members or potential members, more importantly, for a membership campaign would be involved on LinkedIn, and then chose to initiate a membership campaign utilizing several of the features that Andrew had already discussed. So the expert in our social media here at ICF is Lisa McKinney, and she's here and is going to talk through some of the tactics that we used in the campaign.
Okay. So we used a sort of three-pronged approach because we wanted to sort of reach the members of our targeted groups in multiple touch points. So the first thing we did was send them all a sponsored in-mail. The in-mail was a note from our CEO. It was sort of, the language we used felt very personal. It was not very salesy. And we used our research to sort of highlight the top valued benefits. So the things that were really motivating people to join our organization were the things that we really touched on in the in-mail. And then, as you can see on the slide, we had an ad that appeared beside the in-mail as well. And we had an easy to click through where it says join now. We had an easy click through button that redirected to a dedicated landing page specifically for this LinkedIn campaign. So that was the way that we were able to track how many people came in and actually became members via the in-mail and sort of the other solutions that we used. And some of the results that we got from this was a 17% click-through rate, which is 2 to 3 times LinkedIn's benchmark, which is 5 to 10%. So we are very happy with that. The second thing we did was sponsored updates, and the purpose of the sponsored updates for us was to establish ourselves as kind of thought leaders in the industry, show the value we provide, create brand awareness, kind of inform readers about things that we knew that they would be interested in. So there's no real direct call to action that we used in our sponsored updates, but we were just trying to sort of build loyalty to the brand through these. And they did drive a lot of traffic to our website and to our blog, and we did gain a lot of followers this way, and it was just another touch point to sort of reach our target audience. And the third thing we did was display ads, and we actually had 2 different display ads, the one you see here, and then a different version which had a picture of a current member and a testimonial below it. And we knew, again, from our research on our members that testimonials from current members would be very effective. So we did A/B testing with the 2 ads, and we actually found that they performed, pretty similarly. So we continued with both. And a lot of the artwork and the content in the ads reflected the artwork and the content in the in-mail. So people, kind of were getting the same message multiple times via this campaign. We were very, very happy with our results. We had 1,899 new members enrolled via that dedicated landing page. So we made $465,000 on this campaign, which gave us an ROI of 1,761%, which is absolutely outstanding. All the benchmarks, or all of our open rates and click-through rates surpassed LinkedIn's benchmark, so we were really happy with that as well. And we had a really high level of engagement on our sponsored updates, which is really important to us because we weren't just looking for any new members, we were looking for sort of loyal and engaged new members.
So to reiterate what Lisa was saying there with the results, our goal going into this campaign was actually just to make sure that we covered our investment, which the initial investment in this for us was $25,000. And the other thing that we did sort of strategically to help gain and really sort of maximize our results was that we did not commit all $25,000 right up front. We were able to sort of ease into it with some of the testing and some of the various methods that that Lisa went over. And we were able to shift our spend moving forward through the course of the campaign toward things that were seeming to be more effective than others. So as the results show, we were extremely pleased with what we were able to accomplish with this campaign. Obviously, it raised the bar pretty high for membership campaigns around here, which is sometimes not always a good thing. But in this case, it was something it was very successful, and we've actually won a few awards for this campaign in various association organizations that we belong to and marketing associations.
And that's something else I would sort of reiterate as well, is that we kept in very close contact with our LinkedIn reps during the course of the campaign, and they would send us sort of detailed reports on a weekly basis, and we were able, as Michael said, to sort of shift our strategy as we went along to optimize the campaign. And then when the campaign was finished, we got reports on who was clicking through. So strategic function, company size, seniority level, those sorts of details, which was actually very helpful for us in creating future campaigns, whether they be on LinkedIn or elsewhere.
And something also that I wanted to mention or reiterate that Andrew stated was that because we knew that 97% of our members and in theory 97% of coaches out there were already on LinkedIn, it makes it easier to sort of go where they already exist and talk to them as opposed to trying to pull them into someplace new. And so I think that is a key component to why it was so successful. I think, we're not necessarily having to get them to jump through hoops to get from one place to membership. They're already there. They're already engaged on LinkedIn. In our case, a lot of our members are individual coaches who sort of have their own business and their own coaching practice and their own clients. And so not only are they utilizing LinkedIn a lot for networking, but also for knowledge, but they're also typically pretty vested and interested in the strength of the profession, and that gets them collaborating in these groups a lot. So we're basically by going where they were already active participants, it was a much easier transition to get them to join ICF at that point. So I think that's kind of the overview of our campaign. I believe we're probably moving into a Q&A section at this point, so we'll be happy to answer any questions that anyone has about what we did here.
Yeah, let's take some questions. And thank you so much, Lisa and Michael, for providing that overview. Actually, one question I had was, when you were running your different campaigns on LinkedIn, right? You used a variety of products for sponsored email, for example, and sponsored updates. Did you take a different approach by product for the kinds of messages that you published or the type of content that you thought would resonate for your audience in an email versus like a sponsored update that would appear in the newsfeed?
Yes, definitely. As I mentioned, the sponsored updates, our goals were a little bit different with that. We kind of wanted to establish ourselves as thought leaders, as I said, and provide value to potential members and sort of show them that we are the place to come for information about coaching. So a lot of the content we shared there was from our blog or even from third parties, if there was some good content out there, related to the coaching industry or business building or other things that we knew that potential members would be interested in. So there's sort of more of a service component there, more of a brand building component. And like I said, we didn't really use a direct call to action there. Whereas in the sponsored email and certainly the ads, we were sort of more directly asking people to become members and reiterating the value of membership and that sort of thing. So slightly different goals and, using slightly different content to reach those goals.
Excellent, thank you. We got some questions that I think are specific to ICF, which was, how did you know that your target audience was on LinkedIn to begin with? And actually, I would love to address that question in a general way too. Like, how do you know if your target audience is on LinkedIn? If you're using a product like Sponsored Updates, for example, Sponsored Updates has a self-service option where you can actually set up a campaign on your own, and you can input the kind of targeting criteria that you want to use, such as your audience's industry, seniority within their companies, their location, and it'll estimate the size of the audience that you can reach on LinkedIn. So with Sponsored Updates, we actually have a great option where we will help you understand pretty instantaneously how many members are really out there that match your criteria. If you're working with a LinkedIn representative on a lead accelerator campaign or a display campaign, that representative will also provide a forecast for you before you launch a campaign to help you understand how many people within your target pool you could reach on LinkedIn. Got a question about whether the ad campaign options require you to have a LinkedIn premium profile. The answer is no. We get that question a lot, but these products that we've been talking about today are available for any marketer, for any of you to use, even if you don't subscribe to the LinkedIn Premium account membership. So no restrictions there. One more question we got about Lead Accelerator was, what is the setup process for that? Is it a self-service product? Is there a managed service? I think the great thing about Lead Accelerator is if you do want to use that for retargeting, we have a team that helps you get set up to create the ad sequences, the content sequences that you want to publish to your target audience. and we walk you through how to use the platform, so a very hands-on setup process so that you can actually start to drive your own nurture streams, your own retargeting efforts using Lead Accelerator. So we help you learn the platform so you can become self-sufficient with it. Couple other questions that we're getting. What would a nonprofit do? So if you're a nonprofit or if you're just getting started and your marketing budget isn't necessarily huge right now, is there anything you can do on LinkedIn? I'd say there's a couple things I would do in that regard. So the first is anyone can set up a LinkedIn company page, and you can do that for free. And what you can do with your page is you can start to publish content like rich media or links back to blog posts or other kinds of content that you have on the web. And you can start to build a targeted following of professionals on your LinkedIn company page. And a great thing that a lot of brands do is when they are ready to start migrating into paid campaigns, they want to make sure that they're getting the most bang for their buck. So they'll look at which company page posts, which organic posts are driving the highest engagement on LinkedIn with their audience, and then they will sponsor those posts that are performing extremely well. And they'll target those posts to an audience that matches the kinds of professionals they're trying to reach beyond their company page followers. So that lets you, that helps you get more mileage out of your investment. You can start with just setting up a company page for free, publishing content organically. Would highly encourage you to get your employees to follow your company page and to share content that you post to LinkedIn. We actually find that there's a very strong correlation between companies' engagement on LinkedIn with their audience and how engaged their employees are. So that's a great place to start and something that you can do for absolutely no cost. Question from Carrie, do we see a different result or level of engagement based on regions or countries? It's a great question. We don't see very strong variances in the kinds of engagement metrics that we get by region. So I'd say that it really depends on your audience. And that one way to think about how to engage an audience on LinkedIn, it might not just be the region that you're targeting with your content or your products or your campaigns. It might also be the kinds of people you're trying to reach. So if you are trying to reach an audience of medical professionals on LinkedIn, for example, you might want to obviously make sure that you're targeting that audience to begin with messages that would be relevant to an audience in the medical profession. And that's probably going to determine your engagement rates and make a bigger impact on it more so than the geography that you're targeting.
Andrew, I actually meant to dive in.
Yeah, go ahead.
I meant to dive in a second ago and tie something you were saying about nonprofits back into the other question about how you know that your audience is on LinkedIn already.
Yeah.
So we're actually a nonprofit as well. Obviously, we're fairly large at this point and have a fairly robust budget. We were able to spend $25,000 on this campaign. But I think in addition to establishing that company page, I think if you can find an issue out there that's very related to your product or your company and start a group, that's another great way to get people sort of engaged on the issue and talking, and then you can sort of evaluate and target that group later. In our case, one of our members actually started what ultimately became our group, and this ties back to the question about whether they're out there. At the time we did this campaign, and we had taken over the group from that member because it became too large for them to handle. But at the time of this campaign, we had less than 20,000 members, but our group, not our company page, had over 40,000 participants. So that was another kind of strong indicator that we probably had a pretty good market to reach out to in this. So for a nonprofit, and particularly the nonprofits are typically organized around issues. If you can start a group and get people who are actively involved in that issue and become a community of sorts, that's probably going to be another go-to way to kind of build that up and then have a base to market to later.
Yeah, that's a great example. I agree. LinkedIn groups are another great free resource. to start building your audience and your company brand on LinkedIn before you even use something like a display product or sponsored updates or sponsored email. Another company that does that very well is HubSpot. They make marketing software, marketing tools for mid-sized businesses, and they have a group on LinkedIn called Inbound Marketing, and they publish thought leadership and helpful tools for marketers. They let other marketers dive into basically the discussion feed in their group to talk about topics relevant to marketers, challenges people are facing, share best practices. And that's a great member-driven forum that increases brand awareness for them, and that also raises the profile of their brand on LinkedIn. Yeah. Another question we got, let's see, how do I run, this is from Eric, how do I run my LinkedIn brand awareness campaign with a trade industry publication? So I think, Eric, I'll try to answer your question a couple different ways if I'm interpreting it correctly. If you are a content provider, let's say you work for a trade publication and you're trying to publish your content on LinkedIn and get more traction for that content, best thing you can do is start by setting up a company page for your trade, for your publication. Start linking to articles and publishing them to the feed. Encourage your customers and employees and your readers to follow you. So you'll build a following for your content on LinkedIn. And then once you have that base, start sponsoring your posts from your company page. Run sponsored updates campaigns where you can distribute your content on LinkedIn to a broader audience beyond your follower base. And let's say like your trade publication focuses on people in finance. You could sponsor your content on LinkedIn and make sure that it shows up in the news feeds of financial services professionals. So you can build a targeted following, a targeted audience for your content. Another question we got from Carl. Does your target audience have to go to LinkedIn.com to see the ads that you're running? So the answer is it depends on the product. Certain ads like text ads or sponsored updates appear in different parts of LinkedIn.com. So they might appear on the home page, in the news feed, on the right side of people's profile pages, and those are on-site advertisements. But we do have, as I mentioned before, products that let you publish messages and ads and content off of LinkedIn.com as well, so you can reach your target audience even when they're not on LinkedIn. So that would be network display, which lets you lets you place display advertising on premium publisher sites all across the web, so you can reach your audience on LinkedIn as they go to different websites. And you can also use Lead Accelerator, which is our retargeting product, and lets you send messages to your audience in a variety of formats when they're on LinkedIn or off LinkedIn. So those are our solutions for, I guess, off-site advertising and messaging that you might say. Michael or Lisa, one thing I'm interested in is, like, we've been talking on this webinar a lot about how brand marketing can feed the bottom of the funnel, can drive the business. Like, how do you think about brand marketing at ICF? Like, it really seems like when you're trying to engage an audience with content, for example, you're also thinking, how can I not just engage the right audience, but ultimately, you know, follow it with something like sponsored email to generate leads and like an impact to the bottom line, or revenue at least. Like, do you view brand marketing as something that's increasingly connected to both the top of the funnel and the bottom of the funnel?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're in a little bit of a unique position being a member, association because for us, a hard lead is a new member, but we're also trying to promote the profession and secondarily help our members grow their businesses. As I mentioned, a lot of our members are, entrepreneurs and have their own coaching practices. In fact, the vast majority do. So for us, it's not necessarily a traditional, straightforward, hey, here's how we convert sales, because we think there's definitely value to us, even if we're not converting, prospects out there into members. So I don't think necessarily as straightforward for us to answer that question as it is for, maybe a retail or, a for-profit organization that's not a membership, association that's pushing a certain profession as much as they are their own membership.
Awesome, thank you. We had a question about targeting options on LinkedIn. It was, can you target by job title? The answer is yes, with several of our products, you can target by job title. So sponsored updates, sponsored in-mail, and text ads allow you to target by title as well as job function. So that's basically two ways we let you publish content and messages to your audience based on what they do for a living in their careers. Another question we had was, if I'm running a LinkedIn campaign, can I target a competitor's followers? Not precisely, but what you can do is you can target people based on the company they work for. So a lot of our products, and I'll be specific, with sponsored updates, in-mail text ads, with our display advertising, you actually can target people by company name. So that's a great way for you to reach people who are employees of a specific company if you're doing account-based marketing. Another thing you can do is you can, with some of our products like sponsored updates, email or text ads, you can target people by skills. So if you think about like who's a typical person who might follow one of your competitors, you can try to think, okay, what kind of skills does that person have that they might list on their LinkedIn profile? And you can actually target your audience based on that set of skills. So that's a great way that you could most likely target your messages, ads, and content to an audience that is likely to follow a competitor or maybe likely to follow your company.
And Andrew, just to add to that a little bit, we sort of indirectly targeted our competitors' members by finding their LinkedIn groups for other professional organizations and targeting the people in those groups. So that's another way to do it if those groups exist, just depending on what industry you're in.
Yeah, that's a great add-on. Thank you. Another question we had, Lisa, was how many individuals managed your campaign? So I don't know if there's anything you could talk about the experience of working with LinkedIn on sponsored updates and in-mail. How many people did it take on your side beyond you two? And then how many people at LinkedIn did you work with throughout this process?
So when we were choosing what groups to target, that was two people. It was our old brand manager and then our director of research and education. So they sort of got the ball rolling. But then in terms of the day-to-day management, it's just one person. And we had several different reps at LinkedIn that we were sort of in constant contact with, and that were, if something was performing really poorly, they would email us and let us know. If something was performing really well, they would, do the same. But on our end, it was not very labor-intensive at all. Once we had all the artwork set up and all the content created, which of course, brought in other members of our marketing team, our graphic designer and our communications coordinator. But all that was on the front end. And then once we had all of that created, it was just really one person checking in to see how things were performing, and kind of re-strategizing as needed, and then also posting those sponsored updates. So, it really wasn't, like I said, very labor-intensive or very much work once we had it all set up.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We got time for a few more, and we have a lot of questions coming in through WebEx, so apologies in advance. We probably can't cover all of them, but I'll get to as many as I can right now. Question from Chris. Does the content of sponsored updates come from within LinkedIn, or can it be from an external source like a blog? The answer is both. It depends on what kind of content you want to publish. We have a tool where you can upload a JPEG, for example, so you could, if you have an infographic or a really vibrant image that you want to upload, you could put that image file directly within the update. Alternatively, you could link to a blog post, you could link to a YouTube video, you could link to a slide share. Rich media plays in line in the feed with sponsored updates, so that's great news there. We actually find that if you do link to something like a blog post in a sponsored update, you should definitely make sure you include a thumbnail image. LinkedIn's going to auto-generate that thumbnail image for you. You could actually change it out if you want. But it's really important to keep that thumbnail image in there because I think as marketers, we probably all understand that people are drawn to visuals, they love imagery. We found just within our own platform, there's a strong correlation between the use of images in a sponsored update and the engagement rate that we see with those sponsored updates. So whether you're linking elsewhere or you're uploading an image file to LinkedIn, having some sort of visual in your update is a great way to drive results. Question from Susan, does LinkedIn offer consulting services or types of assistance to help companies use all these tools that we're talking about today? The answer is we provide managed service, fully managed service for a lot of our products. It tends to require a certain minimum investment in terms of marketing budget, but we do have a full team of account managers who work with a lot of our clients, whether they're mid-market companies or global enterprises. And a lot of our products that are self-serve, so some of our products do have self-serve options. We provide a lot of online resources, whether it's help centers, playbooks, best practice sheets, case studies to help you see how can you be successful on LinkedIn, what are some other companies doing. And so we try to give you that great balance whether you're doing it yourself or you're working with a LinkedIn team. I'd say if you're interested in getting started but you don't know where to begin, go to marketing.linkedin.com and you can see the different options we have, and you can even request to be contacted by a representative. Let's see, couple more questions that we have coming through WebEx. Let's see what we have here. Carrie asked, should I stick to posting only my content on the business page? Currently, this is all we do. So Carrie, I think you're probably asking, is there another place to post your content on LinkedIn? What I would recommend is this. If you're publishing content to the newsfeed, it starts by posting an update to your LinkedIn company page. When you sponsor that post, people, your target audience, are eligible to see it within their news feeds. So even if they're not going to your company page, they could still find it. We also have a feature for sponsored updates called direct sponsored content, which is essentially like dark posting. It lets you run many different variations of copy, image, headline, targeting, and to test different versions of a sponsored update at scale, but it doesn't show up on your company page. So you could test 100 different versions of a sponsored update with different target audiences, but it's not necessarily going to show up on your company page. It'll just show up in people's news feeds. That's a great way to test different versions of your content without duplicating posts on your company page. Question, if we're going to email out a recording of this webinar presentation. Definitely we are, so you'll all be able to get that. I think we have time for one or two more, so Michael or Lisa, if you have time to take this one before we break. Ivy is asking, how much time would you recommend planning the deployment of an effective LinkedIn campaign? I don't know if there's anything you could comment on, like when did you get started, how far in advance, maybe how long it took you to plan the content, for example?
The first time around, I would say several months, sort of just like researching and talking with LinkedIn, deciding what products would help us meet our goals the most efficiently. The second time around, because we repeated this campaign the next year, it was a lot shorter lead time because we sort of knew what we were doing more. And in terms of deployment, we deployed it for 3 months both times. It really just depends on what products you're using, what your goals are. If you have a lot of, artwork and content created already, then it's going to be a lot easier. If you don't, then there's going to be a lot more lead time. So it's hard to give a definitive answer. It just really depends on, your organization and what products you're using. So I hope that's a little helpful.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll take one more quick one since I think we have about 60 seconds. How does network display compare to other distribution channels or other kinds of ad networks? One thing I'll say about network display is that we work very closely to curate a high quality and brand safe list of publishers some of which is through direct partnerships with publishers or whitelists that we curate through leading ad exchanges. So we know that we have a professional audience that expects high-quality messaging. We want you to help reach that audience in brand-safe contexts. So we actually, I think, do a great job of providing a safe network to put your ads so that you can reach not only the right audience, but reach them in great places all across the web as your LinkedIn audience travels to different destinations. So I think that is all the time we have. We would love to answer all your questions. Please, you can reach out to us at marketing.linkedin.com. We will be sending out a replay of this webinar with the presentation. So thanks everybody again for attending, and I hope that you got a lot out of this. Thank you.